Howdy y'all, I'm Anna with Always Right, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to get into writing. Now, this may sound silly if you've been writing for a little while, you've kind of finished a first draft, or you've done a few first drafts yourself, but stick around because this may spark your creativity, and this may kind of revitalize your interest and your love for writing. Now, let me tell you before we get much further into the video, that writing is probably one of the hardest hobbies that you can get into. Now, I know you may be like, well, underwater basket weaving is difficult to get into because I have to get a pull and I have to get an instructor. And it's like, no. I'm talking about hobbies where it's being creative and it's something that everyone has a little bit of experience with and everyone has some exposure to in some form. I mean, think about it. All through primary school, all through probably high school and maybe college if you went to it, you were required to write something. You were required to take some form of a language class. Not necessarily an English class, but a language class, a writing class. So why is writing so difficult to get into? The answer to that is found in this quote by Ira Glass. It goes as follows. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish somebody told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there is this gap. For the first couple of years, you make stuff. It's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, into writing, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. Most people I know who do interesting creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have this special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. And if you are just starting out or you are still in this phase, you gotta know it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you will finish one story. It is only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap. And your work will be as good as your ambitions. And I took longer to figure out how to do this than anyone I've ever met. It's gonna take a while. It's normal to take a while. You've just gotta fight your way through. And I agree completely with this quote. And this quote is why it's really hard as an older person or even just an adult to get into writing. See, it's so much easier to get into writing when you're a kid, when you're not really reading a lot of published work. But if you're an adult and you regularly consume published work, you regularly consume award-winning books or award-winning short stories or poetry, it's hard to start writing and look at your little sentences, your little paragraphs you create and go, oh, this doesn't read anything like the things I've read, because it won't. And it is so easy to look at your work, to look at what you've done, and to go, ugh, this is bad. This is really bad. How did I make this? I can't publish this. I can't do anything with this. Because we're so accustomed to being able to kind of get it down or get it close to down within the first few attempts. For example, cold process soap making. I watched plenty of videos, probably like you have with AuthorTube, and I got it down in my mind. I was like, okay, I can do this. I found a recipe, I got all the ingredients together, I got all the equipment, and I did my first bar of soap, and it turned out fine. It's usable soap, it's pretty soap even, and it's something I'm proud of. Compare that to my first attempt at fan fiction. I had no paragraphs. It was a paragraph, aka a chunk. There weren't even quotation marks for the first draft of my first chapter. I'll admit it. I will say it proudly. I didn't have quotation marks. I didn't have paragraphs. I just kind of forced the reader to guess. Granted, I was about 11 at the time, but I was old enough to know, that's not what books look like. Did that stop me? No, because I was having fun and I didn't have the pressure of, oh, I need to make this a job. Oh, I need to get this published. Oh, I read all these books. Oh, my favorite author doesn't write like this. Oh. No, I was 11 and I was just like, this is my story. This is how I bettered this original piece of fiction. I'm so good. Yeah, ignorance is wasted on the youth. And it took me probably like 15 years of writing on and off to get something that's like semi-publishable. As in, I finished a first draft, I read through it, I went, I could self-publish this and get some sales, but it wasn't at the level that I wanted for myself, even now. So if you're struggling to get into writing, if you're struggling to even put pen to paper, to put your fingers on the keyboard, to start on that Word document, that Scrivener file, that Google Doc, I see you and I understand. It is a valid struggle. It is a valid anxiety and stressor. So I have some pointers on how you can get into writing. The first kind of pointer to get into writing is fan fiction, which sounds a little silly because you're like, I'm afraid to start writing a document. You want me to start writing a document. The thing is with fan fiction is the story's already there. Most of the characters are already there. You don't have to publish this to anyone. You don't have the stress. You don't have that pressure on yourself to make it worth your time, to make it worth publishing, to make it good enough. Instead, it's just, hey, I think this plot hole in like The Walking Dead's bullshit. I'm gonna fix it. Here's my character, here's how she does it. I know it sounds really silly. I know it sounds like I'm just kind of like blasé, just write. Because that's what you'll hear on the internet is, oh, you need to read more. Oh, you need to just write. That's what a lot of people tell you to get into writing. That is not always the case for everyone. That is not the one shoe fits all for every writer or every person that like has an interest. After all, not everyone that wants to start writing as a hobby wants to start writing to like get published or self-publish. So fan fiction is a great way to kind of start writing. Just literally get words on your paper because you're pulling that stress, you're pulling that anxiety of, oh, but this isn't good enough to get published. Oh no, it's pulling that back and it's going, no, you're okay. We're not gonna publish this. This is me fixing a story. That's how you can look at it. That's how I looked at it. And the thing about writing is that like any practice is good practice. Another way to get into writing, if you don't watch a lot of TV, you don't have a book that you just like, I want to fix it. And you don't have a movie that just makes you go, what, girl? The other way is through writing prompt books. There are a lot of them at like Barnes & Noble. I got this one at Barnes & Noble. They're usually on the end caps and they'll say like writing prompt or like coffee break writing. And they're pretty cheap. This was like $8. You can also find them on Amazon by literally just typing in like writing prompt book. And there'll be a few options that pop up with Amazon Prime shipping for like $7 to like $15. Now, the reason I suggest these is it dips your toes into writing. It doesn't require you to start writing a story. They're just very light prompts. For example, 14 in this book. World cities. Write down 3 cities of the world, followed by a single sentence to describe each one. So that's like the first prompt. See, they don't give you a lot of space. They don't give you that chance to overwrite. They don't give you that chance to just like go full anxiety, go full stress, and go, oh my God, but what if it's not good enough? Because this is for you. This is just for funsies. This is just to get your creative juices going. And then they'll usually have like a second prompt or another prompt. For example, this one has a second prompt that says, choose one of the cities, the one you found most interesting to describe, and write a short piece in which you, quote, talk to the city as if you were talking to a person. They're just really fun, really kind of different writing prompts. It's not asking you to create a fantasy world. It's not asking you to create like an orcish or an elfish language. Hell, it's not even asking for you to do like a character arc or like plot points. It's literally just asking you to write. But these are a great option if you're looking for something to get into writing and you're looking for something that's like just really simple, really easy, very fun. The next kind of way you can get into writing is by writing prompt websites. I know, we just went through like the books, but the websites are a totally different beast. That's why they're not like an asterisk after the books, they're their own category. Now, the first two that come to mind are the Reddit and like the Tumblr sites. I will have those linked down below for you if you would like to look at them. Now, these prompts aren't as easy. These aren't like, hey, name 3 cities, write a sentence description, pick your favorite, have a conversation with it. They're more like, hey, aliens have invaded the planet and the old gods have awakened to defend humanity. Right on that. And then people will write like short stories reacting or fulfilling these prompts. They're super interesting, they're super zany, and they're free if you have internet, which I'm guessing you probably do have internet. And these are a great way for you to see others' kind of responses to these prompts. On Reddit, and I believe on Tumblr, you can see how people reacted, how people fulfilled the prompts. It's a great way to learn kind of basic, like prompt reaction storytelling. And it's a great way to get your creative juices flowing, especially if you're kind of stuck on a scene in your own book. Just remove yourself from it, go do a writing prompt, go back into your book, and you'll probably be a little better off. Another way that you can get into writing is to read your favorite books from your favorite authors and actually read them as a writer. There is a difference between reading a book as just like a very casual book reader or just an avid book reader and reading a book as a writer. By looking at books through the lens of a writer, you can kind of see sentence structure, you can see the plot, the character progression, like as it's happening on the page. And you can kind of digest that and go, oh, that's how he did it. Oh, that's the sentence structure I like. Ooh, maybe not that. But rereading your favorite books with the eye of a writer is amazing, especially if you read your favorite authors' like first few books or first few stories or first few whatever. And once you've digested that book as a writer, you can look at your own book and you can go, okay, this is how I think I can do it. Keep in mind, this isn't going to be the easiest way to get into writing, especially if you don't have any practice. You will get frustrated with yourself. You will be disappointed in what you produce. You may even be tempted to edit your work so that it's closer to your favorite author's writing style. Don't do any of those. Just keep writing and go on. If you really wanted to, you could kind of rewrite your favorite stories from memory into a book. If you can read a chapter and then rewrite it in your own tone, that's a great first step into writing. Because you don't have that pressure of the character development, you don't have that pressure of what will the character say, you won't even have the pressure of what the plot. Instead, you'll just be focused on reproducing the chapter in your own words. And my last tip, which is aimed a little bit more towards like people that have that story idea but don't know what to do with it, I would highly suggest reading craft books. By reading craft books, you're exposing yourself to like the experience of other writers. Save the Cat writes a novel, and Story Genius are two of the most commonly suggested books across AuthorTube. They're very detailed but very helpful with their breakdown of story. So if you're thinking about writing because you have that really good story idea, I would highly suggest looking into these two books. And yes, there are hundreds of craft books out there. Probably some really good ones, most likely some meh ones, not very helpful for you right now ones, and probably some bad ones. That's just how the game is played. But craft books can really help you better your craft. They won't necessarily be like the end-all answer to becoming a better writer or getting into writing, because you still have to write to get into writing. It's just, they are a good starting point. They are a good kind of nudge in the right direction to produce at least like a decent book for your first draft. I really hope this has helped you kind of get into writing, given you a better idea on where you can start, because I've seen this question so many places. I've had people actually ask me, well, you've been writing, how do you get into writing? My answer to them is usually just write. And that is not a good answer, I have come to learn. I've especially learned that because I suggested it to my mother. She tried it and she went, okay, how else can I get into writing? So this video is dedicated to people like my mother that have been avid readers all their lives, have had story ideas, have wanted to put their mark on readers, have wanted to tell a story. This video is dedicated to y'all. So thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. It means so much to me. And as always, let's get writing. Bye!